That's not true. I do set goals for myself. I'm way yappy rambling. Okay, I'm getting back into the groove, getting back into the vibe. This is what it's like to be in front of the camera and yap. Okay, cool. Hello, Happy New Year. Hope y'all's holiday was 10 out of 10, no notes. You know, I just have to like get comfortable again every time there's a bit of a break away from the camera. I have to like get comfortable again with like how this works. But welcome to 2025's very first yap session. I mean, like, of course I have goals. Like, I have goals for myself for 2025 and goals for myself in the future. I generally don't get like super serious about like New Year's resolutions and goals because they generally just like don't happen. I get like too lofty with them or I make too many. I will set goals for myself throughout the year as I deem appropriate. I remember actually in 2023, I remember telling my husband, like, my goal is to, I don't know even know if I should mention this because this is like a little bit unhinged. Should I mention this one? I'll mention it because I'm feeling unhinged. I think it was 2023 and it was, I told my husband, like, a goal I have is to get an agent by the end of this year. And he was like, I don't think that's a good goal because that's not really something that you can control. And I was like, I can if I'm amazing. I did not get an agent that year, but I did get a publishing deal. So I don't set goals for myself anymore. That's not true. I do set goals for myself. I'm way yappy rambling. Okay, I'm getting back into the groove, getting back into the vibe. This is what it's like to be in front of the camera and yap. Okay, cool. Some things that are happening this year. So some announcements, I suppose. Number one, this is my debut year. My book comes out this year. It comes out in the fall. I don't have an exact date yet. It's supposed to be like August, September is what it's slated out to be. I don't think it's like quite sunk in yet, honestly. I think it's because of the stuff I'm going to talk about in a second, which is just coming up with a new idea and just angst about being a author professional. And not having an idea for like my next story. And so I think it hasn't like quite sunk in yet. But that is exciting nonetheless. Another announcement I don't think I've actually mentioned this before. I think I've announced it on like an Instagram story and that's it. But I have been invited to Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri. It is a fantasy fandom convention. And I'm super excited because who even am I? That's just cool to be invited like as a author, like as a professional. It's in August. If you make it out, amazing. If not, I will accept your good vibes. But I will include links and things like that down below. Oh, and the last announcement, just celebration. Woohoo! Very recently, this channel passed 1,000 subscribers over the holidays. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to this channel. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that you're here. I hope that you enjoy being here. I hope the vibes are immaculate. And I hope you have a great day and a great New Year. And join the Discord. That will also be linked down below. I think that's it. Now let's get into it. That's enough. That's long enough. That's definitely long enough. Let's go. Anyway, what is the video about today? What do your notes say, Dami? Here's what's on the agenda for today, for our yap sessions. Today's yap will be about the book I was working on, a new project, and some quibbles and complaints. The story that I have been working on more recently is an adult steampunk fantasy, and it's a story that I wrote about a year and a half ago and finished, but it was very much a very rough draft. Like I would call it like a draft like 0.5, like not quite bare bones draft 0, but not quite a draft 1. I was working on this story the last couple of months really with revising it, and as I was working on revisions, I realized I need to start over because when I wrote this, it was such like a vomit dump of like thoughts and feelings, and I realized like I wasn't quite hitting a couple of beats. It needed work. It needed more work than I initially thought. And so I was like, well, I just need to go back to drawing board and really start from chapter 1, like all over again. I imagined though that scenes and chapters could translate over to like the new version, but I just needed to actually just start over instead of like revising as I go. And I think that's still the right thing to do. So I started that process. I'd been hopping on and off, like jumping the fence back and forth regarding whether or not to shelve this project. Like before I thought about shelving, and then I decided to just do a rewrite. And like if you've been watching my videos, like the question of like, should I shelve, should I not shelve, it has been like an ongoing theme for the last like couple of months. It has been shelved. Like it has officially been shelved. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to work on it again. That doesn't mean I've abandoned the project. I do imagine, I know I'll be coming back to it. I've done a lot of work in terms of like setting myself up for success in the future. A little bit of a more thorough beat sheet for myself, a little bit more thorough of an outline. I do think the chapters that I have written, I've written like the first like 8 or 9 chapters. So I think I really set myself up. Like I think those chapters are good. I think there might be revisions that need to happen within those chapters, but I don't think I necessarily need to like scrap those chapters again. I think I was just getting too close to the project and I just could not see, like, even though I could see the way forward because I outlined it for myself, it was just really hard to get there. And I was like, I just need to shelve it, and I just need to move on. Which kind of brings me into the next topic at hand, new Project Angst. But this is the first time I haven't had an idea like fresh off the dome that hasn't been just like marinating in my brain. I'm like out of ideas, and it's honestly part of the reason why I didn't shelve this project earlier is because I was just like, if I shelve this project, now what? And I think that scared me. And I'm realizing now that I think that was a really big part of why I was having such a hard time shelving this project, because I didn't know, like, well, what am I supposed to do with myself now? And in the past, like, ideas have come to me kind of like shower thoughts, right? Like, what if this, what if that? I would consider myself more of like a speculative author. And so it's very much like, what if this, what if that was different? What if this had happened? And, you know, you can't force shower thoughts. And there's this degree of, like, while it's exciting that I do have an agent and writing is still very much a hobby for me, but there is now a degree of this is a job. And what's kind of silly is my entire life, this is the job that I've wanted, really. I wanted to be an author and I still want to be an author. That is a job title. And now that I'm like here, like now that I'm not here, I haven't arrived, like, I haven't, like, actually made any money yet, right? Like, my debut is set to come out later this year. I made $0, right, off of being a writer, being an author. But I'm so much closer today to that than I've ever been in the past. And so now the title author isn't just aspirational, it has arrived. And that means I need to work. And if I don't have ideas, and my ideas generally just come to me, like the spirit of the vibes, like just comes into my soul, like what do I do? And this has led to a bit of a crisis. Ideas have come to me and it's been like right off the dome, the shower thoughts, right? If I can't force shower thoughts, like where do they come from? And I say this, my last story idea, which was the Dragon Phoenix book that was the last thing I wrote, which is a book about dragons and phoenixes, and the sun has disappeared from the sky and 2 teenagers are gonna go get it back. I did actually beat my head against the wall to come up with the idea, basically. I knew I wanted to write about dragons. I was like, I want to write about dragons. You know, Fourth Wing had come out, dragons were kind of making a comeback, right? Like, first of all, it's like you shouldn't follow trends anyway, but if you are interested in traditional publishing, you should frankly absolutely not follow trends, because traditional publishing works on like such a slow pace. It's like 3 to 5 business months, not business days. And so if you're following trends, by the time you're ready with your book, like the trend is over. You shouldn't be following trends anyway. But that wasn't why I wanted to write about dragons. I've always wanted to write about dragons. One of the very first books that really kind of fueled that interest in writing for me was Aragon. And I know Aragon gets a lot of flack and a lot of criticism for being very derivative. And I think that's 125% valid. But reading it as like an 11-year-old, like that was my introduction into Lord of the Rings. That was my introduction into high fantasy. That I didn't read Lord of the Rings first. I read Aragon and I was like, I love this stuff. And then I got into The Hobbit and then I got into Lord of the Rings. But anyway, I've always wanted to write about dragons as a result. I think I'm all over the place. But I think my very first fan fiction, and I didn't have the word for it yet, was like an Aragon fan fiction. And I remember I gender swapped and made Aragon a girl. And I must have been like 11 or 12. Like I remember writing it like on paper because like I did not have my own laptop at like age 11. In the early 2000s. Anyway, so I think Aragon actually was like my very first fan fiction. I did not have the word fan fiction yet. Like I didn't know that's what I was doing. Anyway, moving on. I wanted to write about dragons, but I knew it was already overdone. Like Fourth Wing was having her moment. Go you. And I was like, so how do I make it different? And I remember like like Googling like other like beasts that are like out there. Like what are some other fantastical beasts I could write about if I can't like do dragons right now, I guess. And then like Phoenix came up and I was like, heck yeah. And so I was like, por qué no los dos? And so we did, it was dragons and phoenixes. And in terms of like more of the details and things like that, I don't remember exactly where all that sort of inspiration came from exactly, but there was a degree of like beating my head against the wall to come up with the idea, and then it blossomed from there. I do kind of wonder sometimes, like, and if you like, let me know down in the comments too, like how do book ideas come to you? And I think as well, as we get older, our minds, I mean, I can't speak for all of y'all, okay? But as I get older, my mind is just congested with like all sorts of nonsense, okay? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I making for dinner? Did I send my accountant that thing that she needs for taxes? I'm thinking that right now. Like, she asked me to send her some stuff, and I think you sent it to her by like January 5th. And I just remembered, so I like better not forget that. But like, so like my brain is like just always going, and so like what shower thoughts can enter about like book ideas, or like what if this thing, and I'm like where? Another thing is to, you know, actually there's a degree of inspiration, right? I think I do get very much inspired by the content I consume. TV, media, books, media is inspiration, and you know we're all living around each other. And so I think too, if I get too busy and I'm not consuming media, and so I'm not getting inspired, that's honestly, I think what it is. Like, I think I actually just kind of like low-key figured it out. If I'm too busy or too stressed out, that I'm not consuming media that I enjoy. If I'm not consuming media that I enjoy, or even don't enjoy, but if I'm not consuming media, there's no opportunity for me to become inspired and for me to ask those sort of like what if questions, and for those ideas to blossom from each other, if that makes sense. All that being said about like where to get inspired, and the angst about like not being inspired and not having a current idea, like what did that mean for me now? So because I didn't have any ideas, I was like, where do these ideas come from? And so I started engaging more with media again, right? So I've been watching Silo, which is a dystopia. I think it's based on a book, and it's a sci-fi dystopian, like post-apocalyptic sort of story, or post-apocalyptic show. Basically, people live in a silo. The apocalypse happened. We don't know why they live in a silo. It's very interesting. I really like it. I really enjoy it. I am a sucker for dystopian. Like, no matter what, I will consume dystopian content because there's just not a whole lot of it. And so like, even if it's mediocre, I will stick it through because I'm like, what else do I got? Everyone's taste is different, obviously. I don't think it's mediocre. I think it's actually a pretty good show. Before the holidays, I rewatched Severance because I think the new season for Severance comes out soon-ish. I think the new season for Severance comes out. It might already be out, if not next week or the next 2 weeks. I know Apple has been killing it with the TV shows for a while, like pretty consistently, which is fantastic because frankly, I think all these other subscription services are like Looney Tunes banana pants, like when it comes to giving us good media. Like, there's just like so much trash. Like, this is giving us so much trash. And I'm actually going to link a video down below where, and I don't remember his name, but he did this huge deep dive on like Netflix going from really great to really trash. I heavily encourage you to leave this video and like go watch that one instead. Yeah, Apple's been killing it, and Silo's a great show. Severance is a great show, so I watched both of those. Foundation, which I also think is Apple. Yeah, it is Apple. Foundation, which is based on the books by Isaac is it Asimov? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't like the show, to be quite honest. There's some aspects of the show that I really do like. I don't like the show a whole lot. I feel like they kind of lost the plot in season 2. I also bought a couple of like story generators, like for RPGs, so role-playing games. I was never really into RPGs. I have played D&D. I have a couple of friends who are like super into D&D, and they DM games. I've played Baldur's Gate 4 times. I've never finished it. That's something I should actually do. I've never actually finished Baldur's Gate because each time I do a run through, like as a different like character or style, or as a different character or a different like moral alignment, I get to a point where I'm like, no, I want to like romance someone else, and so I start over. But my point is, I don't play RPGs really. But I did buy a couple of just like story generators just to see if that would like kind of help get the juices flowing. And so I'm actually want to share some of those resources with you guys. First one I got, I was straight up influenced by Instagram. Okay, and there was an Instagram, it was an ad, and I bought it. Okay. And it's from these guys, the Story Engine. And I really like it, so I'm going to share some of it with you. And so basically, the idea is it's like a combination set of cards where they give you like an actor, an action. Well, what do they give you? Like an actor, an action, the like intent of a story, anchor card. So for example, so that's like the what is this? The agent card, so like the actor or the main character. And so there's a lot of options. Like each card gives you like 4 different options, right? Okay, so for example, a courier wants to betray a city, but the innocent will suffer. And then they give you like an aspect card. And that's a card that can like basically fit with like the agent or like the subject or like whatever. Get the creative juices flowing, you know? They also have PDF. So if it's too if you look at it and you like kind of like balk a little bit at the price, they do have the PDFs as well. And so if you're like super serious, you can make your own cards from PDFs. And the other thing I got, and it was this. I got the Oracle Story Generator. I got it from, like, they sell it on Amazon. I think it was like $40. And this one is definitely built more specifically for RPGs. So in sum, like, that was how I spent the last couple of weeks. It was consuming media. It was watching movies. It was reading books. I finished Wind and Truth, book number 5. Of the Cosmere. I read all 5 Stormlight Archive books this year, not for the first time. I've read Wave Kings like 4 times. And it's because when I'm done reading it, I put it down, do something else, read something else, come back, try and read the sequel, and forgot what happened. And so last year I read through, I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep reading the first 2 books over and over and over again. I need to progress. And so I was like, I'm going to have to read all these books all the way through, and I will finish them this year. And so that's what I did in 2024. And I read other books like in between sometimes, but like I would give myself like a little bit of wiggle room and then immediately jump right back into the Stormlight Archives because I was like, I cannot forget a single thing. Like I need to read these through so I'm ready for Wind and Truth in December. For anyone who's like super interested in my opinion on book 5, first of all, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was my favorite book of the 5. I think it's really hard to top Oathbringer. I think it's really hard to top Oathbringer. So I don't think it says a whole lot for me to say it wasn't my favorite one. But it was really good and I really enjoyed it. Over the holidays, I worked on creating a brand new story, right? I was consuming media, I was watching movies, I was reading books, I'm playing my little RPG games, and I'm letting my brain kind of operate unsupervised. There were a lot of ideas that got scrapped, like within the last couple of weeks. And then I can see them. Like I can see, like I got an idea, and I was like, oh, I could write a story about this. And I kind of started to flesh it out and started to build the world around it. And I was like, no, and I like scrapped it. And then a couple days later, or maybe like a day later, I was like, oh, I could write about this. And I kind of really started to draw out the branches, and like that didn't work out, but I liked this element about it, and so I kept that and like moved on to like another idea, and I was like, I'm going to center it around this one concept. That's how ideas work. A lot of our ideas are not good ones, but that doesn't mean they don't lead into great ideas. But then on New Year's Day, and I do think it's like quite lovely and serendipitous that this happened on New Year's, but on New Year's Day, I completely fleshed out the world building for a new story idea that I have. Everything from the character groups, the characters' specific motivations, their character arcs, themes, the genres of the story, the full map of the story, the religion, economy, politics, like the interface between politics and religion of this universe that I've created, and completed out a complete beat sheet and a timeline on New Year's Day. I think it's easy for me to say that like it all came together and all happened on New Year's Day, but that's really like not the case. I think that's a very poetic, like serendipitous conclusion of all of this. But in fact, it was all of the scrapped ideas and all of the movies and all the TV and all just the thinking and the imagining and the what ifing and all of that just like coming together finally. I remember on New Year's Day when I really put this story together, and I was kind of thinking to myself, like, is this story gonna sound good tomorrow morning? And it did sound good tomorrow morning, which again was only just yesterday. So I really only like sat with the story for like 2 days. But yesterday I wrote 800 words, and those were the first words that I've like written, like in terms of like narrative, since maybe like the second week of December. Yeah, so I have a new story idea. And I'm working on it, and it's only been a couple days so far. It's fun. I woke up again this morning, and I did not hate the idea still. I do feel like I almost feel like, okay, I can breathe a little bit because I have something else that I'm like nurturing. So, yep, now I have a new story idea, and it is inspired by a lot of the media that I've been consuming more recently. It is inspired by random thoughts vibing out in my brain unchecked. It is inspired by some of the RPG little game stuff that I've been working on. If you made it this far, comment like a sword emoji for like RPGs and D&D games, okay? Swipe. But thank you so much for watching. I hope today's video was mildly interesting or at least entertaining. Don't forget to I forgot my own outro. Thank you so much for watching. I hope today's video was mildly interesting or at least entertaining. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you in the next one. I wish we could skip right to the end, but we keep dancing slow like more than friends.